Before we start today's episode, a bit of housekeeping for all those listeners out there. Whichever your podcast listening platform of choice, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or Spotify, reviews can make a huge difference. Not only do we value your feedback, which can help us create better content, but it will also help others discover the podcast. So spread the love and leave a review if you've got a minute. And with that, on with today's show. I'm the Reverend Dr. Jenny McKay, veterinarian and minister in secular employment, environmentalist, activist, and self-confessed cat junkie. But believe it or not, I have never turned an electric toothbrush into an orbital sander to fix up some church candles. So someone who has is my guest today, pioneer minister and TikTok priest, the Reverend Matt Davis. So Matt, welcome to the podcast. It's brilliant to have you with us.
Thank you. It's lovely to be here too.
So we have to know, how did that toothbrush experiment go?
It was awful. Really didn't work very well. But it was off one of these, I'm sure you've seen them around, these kind of craft videos you get online on Facebook about how to do different things like that. And it's, I decided to give it a go, and it didn't work very well. But I was, it's worth to try. It's worth trying new things, I think. So that chalk it up to experience and probably getting the right tool out of my garage, which I was too lazy to
do. So it worked slightly, but not to try again.
Yeah, definitely. No, not something I'll be going back to anytime soon, I think.
And you're not only a priest, of course, you wear many hats. You're also content creator, woodworker, husband and dad. So I just want to start with your role, and I hope I pronounce this correctly, because you're in the Minid Bedwellty ministry area. Is that the correct way to pronounce it?
It's Minid Bedwellty, well, it's Welsh, so not all the letters translate into English, obviously, because they're Welsh. That's the area.
Minid Bedwellty. And you are a pioneer minister there. What made you start down this particular route of ministry?
Well, I had always, since becoming a Christian in my late teens, or taking my faith seriously in my late teens, I'd always sensed a call to leadership and being someone who felt called to tell people about Jesus as well, and to make that a large part of my life, not just on Sundays. And I went to university in Aberystwyth, and I was praying about what to do after that, to do conservation. I like my outdoors, and I was considering trying to get out to, I think it was Morocco, and spend some time with some people out there, and they were missionaries. Unfortunately, they got chucked out of the country. I thought that was what I was wanting to do, go to somewhere where it's interesting and tough. Then what happened during that time is I went on a course on ordination, and if that's right, and on that screen came up pioneer ministry, and I thought that's the thing that I want to do. I was doing youth work at the time in university, one of the local churches and things, and also spending time with people, and I noticed that people were not connecting with church, do anything for them. And also I was noticing that church really wasn't doing anything for me. Not that it should do anything for me, but just the style and the format that it was done, it left me lacking, left me frustrated. And there were other people who felt that way too. So I thought, this Jesus person is fantastic. And the church has lots of gifts, but it isn't quite connecting. So that led me down this path to think about pioneer ministry and thinking about doing church in different ways. And when I knew I wasn't going to go to Morocco, I prayed about it, as you do. And I got an email off someone working in South Wales, in Newport, asking whether I wanted to join them in a thing called The Lab, which went for 10 years, or just a bit over 10 years in Newport, which was a mission community run by the Church of Wales and the Methodist Church, and in the States. And I went for an interview, and sat down and said, like, I'm really interested in this pioneer ministry thing.
Yeah.
And they're like, guess what? We are too. And it was two things coming together. So I went on that journey, and I kind of ended up going through training through Church Mission Society and
Yeah.
College Cuddesdon for my ordination. And then I got ordained, did my curacy, and then ended up as a ministry area leader, which is yeah, bit of a different job to the pioneering one, but I still try and be pioneering within that too.
And was that within the South Wales area?
Yeah, yeah. So that's all within South Wales. I've got to say also like what pioneering means, because I realise that some people may not know, is it's about doing church differently. So it's not saying that how church is done is bad, but it's recognizing that there may be new ways and new things that God's may be asking us to do. And we may need to do some listening in our communities as to what new churches may look like. So you may have things like Forest Church, Messy Church is a bit like that too. To spending time up on mountains, to doing things which are a bit more contemplative, and things like that. So it covers a grand scheme of things, but it's all about listening to where God is leading us into new things and different things there. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, and I think for me, I suppose I'm a bit like that in that I'm still a vet because I feel
Yeah.
that's part of my ministry
Mm, mm.
as well. Yeah. And some of us take these
And
different routes, don't we,
and
to
that's
bring
good.
Christ to people. It
Yeah,
is.
great. That's great. Yeah.
And you've really focused on TikTok. Why did you go for that platform?
Um, mainly because some of the young people in the area I know around the area, and it fitted to how I do things. I'm trying to do a bit more on Instagram as well, and I see very much like the stuff I do on TikTok as part of and an extension of my ministry, because everything I do there is focused around the area I'm in, the area I'm a ministry area leader, and what it means to be in that area. And TikTok just works for me because you can talk to camera, and I don't like lots of writing. Hate Twitter because of that and other type of platforms where you need to sit and engage in lots of typing. I prefer just being able to make a video. Most of my videos don't take longer than about 5 minutes, to
Right.
from conception to recording, and most of that is setting up the tripod, if I decide to
Okay.
use it. So it's not this really big worked out
Mm.
scheme, but it seems to work quite well.
Yeah.
Landed landed with a few people. I know there's a few out there who I would say are doing a bit better, but for various reasons. But I think what I'm trying to do is be consistent to where I am and the area where
Hmm.
I live, and and really show what it's like to be a vicar in the valleys, but also to show other people, hopefully in the valleys and surrounding area, what the church is about, what we have to offer, and ways of engaging as well. So it's a bit of a cross between a how-to, a why, some questioning and showing off some weird and wonderful things, as well.
Brilliant. So, and I think, as you said, it's not using fancy technology in that sense because perhaps people can relate more to somebody who's you've got your phone, you've got your tripod. That's it. It's simple. It's getting the point out there.
Yeah, not high tech at all. Well, TikTok is pretty high tech, but it's not high tech. Yeah. Yeah.
And how long after you became a pioneer minister did it take you to hop onto the TikTok platform?
Um, I think it was when I moved here. I started using it a bit more consistently, and I noticed it was a trend. I try and keep track of things. So if it wasn't TikTok, it'd probably be something else. So if TikTok kind of wanes, I'd move on, because I think it's important for the church not to, and for ministers as well, not to just kind of like stay on one thing or say like, no, I don't do anything, but engage with culture in a positive way.
Hmm.
And you could say that TikTok's horrible. It's got some, it's got some, fairly unnice things that happen on there. There's lots of talk on the news about trends and, people who are on there and things like that. But actually, there's a lot of good on there, and there's a lot of people who engage
Yeah.
in that. And I believe if we just shy away from that, then it's not going to be good. So that's kind of what spurred me on to that. So I think I've been on there now for a few years, probably coming up to 4 years.
Wow.
So from lurking to doing a few more videos, and I tried to do a church page, but I was kind of just repeating what I was
Okay.
doing,
Okay.
and the church stuff wasn't going as well as me being doing it
Right.
personally. And I think it worked a lot better me doing it
Just you
personally.
doing it. Yeah.
So I just did it as me. So I consider it almost a church account. So I will do some personal
Great.
stuff on there, but it's very much it's very much to promote church stuff. So it'll always be that scope of
Uh-huh.
Matt Vicker,
Hmm.
and I won't talk about anything on there. Be quite careful by what I put on there to make sure that it stays on brand. So
Brilliant.
it'll be always a bit connected with church in some way. Yeah.
Yeah. And what about the traditional members of church? What do they think about this? What's their reaction?
Honestly, it's been really good because I cross post a lot of stuff to Facebook
Right.
from TikTok. So that's where they see it. They don't really see the TikTok stuff. I do have some people when they go and do a funeral visit who say they've
Hmm.
looked me up on TikTok, which is a bit bizarre now that I think we can be so accessible. It's very easy to Google, especially like yourself. You've got websites, things like that, that you can see your face beforehand,
Hmm.
and can read a little bit about you. That people can kind of have these parasocial relationships with you beforehand, which is interesting. But what's been the main thing out of people who are from my congregations and things is when I'm explaining something, even about saints' days or
Mm.
why we do certain things, it's like, oh, we didn't know that. And like these are people
Right.
who like from the cradle
Yeah,
Anglican,
yeah.
and they're like, oh, that's why we have the color purple. I'm like,
Ah, yeah.
yeah, yeah. Oh,
That's the
that's
other
why we
thing.
don't have flower. Oh, yeah, yeah. That's why. And um, so it's really spurred me on, from those conversations to do a bit more with my congregations in terms of, not telling grandma how to suck eggs, but just engaging a bit more about why we do things, why there's certain things that happen in the church,
Hmm.
helping explain that, and hopefully through that as well, helping others then learn and see the deepness and the richness of what goes on from, even the different actions we do in church to the words we say and what they mean
Yes.
and how they link in. So, yeah, most people have really liked it, and it's been informative as well. So that's been great.
That's
Yeah.
great. Yeah, because I know people tend to do things in church out of habit, don't they?
Mm.
Even something simple as the bits of the church, like the nave and the chancel, some people will not understand what that is.
Yeah, 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 and it's like one of the things I enjoy telling people is the pour. So the cover you put over the bread and the wine when we do
Hmm.
the Eucharist, the cover, it literally is there to stop bat
Yeah.
droppings and insects falling in from thatched roofs from hundreds of years ago. And we've given it a very important spiritual meaning, and that's fine. But it's almost like knowing the history helps
Yes.
inform why we do it now, and then the future of stuff as well. So it's yeah, it's an interesting journey to go on with people, I think.
Yeah, and I think some people are quite scared to ask these simple questions, if you like.
Yeah, yeah, and I always say there's no such thing as a stupid question.
No, no,
It doesn't matter how old or how much you've been around something. There's some things you don't
you
know.
just don't know.
And the same goes
Absolutely.
for me as well.
Yeah,
Always
yeah.
every day's a school day, eh? Every day's.
Absolutely, absolutely. So what overall are your thoughts on the rise of the TikTok priest and social media's power overall to connect the church with new audiences?
I do generally think it's a good thing. Um, I think sometimes, well, I've noticed it can spark some interesting conversations across areas. I posted something for Ash Wednesday at the start of Lent, and I had a lot of interaction with Muslims
Mhm.
who would talk about fasting.
Right.
And some of the interactions with both, atheists as well and other people like that being quite militant online are, less great. But there's a lot of positivity there still, and there's a lot of really good conversations. And I think, anyone who can see the church in a different way, or even me, I've been here for 4 years, and there's still people who are meeting me for the first time. These aren't big towns either,
Right.
but meet me for the first time, going, "Oh, you're young for a vicar. I didn't realise there was." I was like, I'm not that young. Like I ache when I wake up in the morning. Um, but yeah, there's that sort of like engagement with people, which I think is really positive, and reaching younger audiences as well, and reaching others who may not engage with church as well. And I think it's that thing about if anyone's looking for a church, and I'm seeing more and more people come into my churches. I'm sure
Mm,
other people as well. And I think mainly where that's happening a lot is where there's a good presence and people can see what you're like. People can
right.
see, not necessarily trust you from stuff because you can't trust anything you see online to a certain extent. But they get a feel about who's going to be there, and they know that it's actually this person is all right. I won't say normal because that's too much of a but this person's all right. They seem like fairly
Yep.
ordinary. They're not like an absolute psycho who's going to just shout at them when they come into church.
Yes.
Um, so I think that sort of that rise of people uh, being online and
Mm,
having and taking up space online, it is really good. Um, I, I I wonder whether it's going to come to a place where um, we kind of like needing to look and invest as church, and especially like institutions in church, in
mhm.
really investing in this well, and to making sure it's done well, and done right, not to dampen it, but just to make room for it, because it could be a full-time job with some people, and there's some people who do really
Yes.
well at it, and put a lot of effort in. And I would say that I'm on the lower end of I put in the minimum viable product, which seems to work.
Yeah.
I'm happy with that. But I think there is some thinking to do around that as well. Like,
Yes.
how do we do this well as a church,
Yes.
really?
Absolutely. It's not just a side arm really tacked on to
Mm.
traditional church.
Yeah.
I suppose, like me, sometimes you'll get negative comments as well, but
Yeah.
I'm sure you find that positive comments are overwhelming and you just have to not listen to some of the negatives.
Oh yeah, yeah, totally, totally. Well, it's also I've had people come up to me like my favorite thing is RE teachers,
Okay.
who've come up to me and said like, "Oh, I love your content. You explain things really simply about what's going on." And I'm like, "Oh, that's great. I got an F in RE." And my dad's an RE teacher as well, or was, a few years ago now. He retired. But it's just really funny that now RE teachers are coming to me and saying like, "I really love your stuff." Where it's like you didn't love it like 20 years
No.
ago in the GCSEs, like you hated my stuff. But I'm glad now that I'm having some recognition from them. So yeah, it is heartening when you get that that positive
Good
message,
feedback.
that you get that nice thing come through. Yeah.
That's good. And of course, you've got a big love for creating and mending things. And that's a lovely regular feature of your social media platforms. And I know you do excellent woodwork and you've fixed toy dinosaurs and you've been painting garden gonks.
Yeah.
Do you think churches should be doing more to explore faith through these hands-on, creative type projects, particularly with the younger churchgoers?
Um, yeah, I do, and I don't think it just extends to younger churchgoers. I think it extends to everybody actually, in terms of ways of expressing ourselves. Churches so often package themselves down to a I don't think it matters what church you go to, and this is one of the reasons why I'm determined to look at church and doing church differently as well. Is we sometimes package ourselves down to you come into a building, you sit down, you face forward, and you listen.
Yeah.
And any church that can tell you there'll be Bible reading, there'll be music, there'll be someone who gets up and prays. And sometimes the format is what's wrong. I mean, it doesn't matter how creative it is, it doesn't matter how beautiful it is, it doesn't matter about the history and the soul of it almost. If we're not engaging people where they are, or if there's a struggle for people to sit in that space well, then that's a shame, I think. So I think there is definitely a space for churches to engage with faith in a more hands-on way, being more creative. Like God's a creative God. The start of the
Yeah.
Bible is creation.
Yeah.
Um, in all of that beauty. So, us being able to express that and us to be able to worship like that, I think is deeply important, and to give a worshipping value to that as well, and saying like, actually, if you're like planting,
Mm,
plants, if you're planting wildflowers, how do we introduce faith into this? If we're getting people
yeah.
just to paint our doors, what does that look
Yeah.
like as an act of worship? And I think that is, super, super important. Like I've, got ADHD, other things, which are, I won't say wrong. I do joke with people that when God made me, he made me badly. But I kind of go through like woodworking, fixing things, all of that, just because that's how
Okay.
my mind is. I love creating, and
Yeah.
also don't have the attention span to stick on one thing. And if it comes into my mind that like I need a new wallet, I'll get leather
Okay.
making supplies and make myself a wallet. And I know that there's other people like me too, who are like that. But I also know that it is important to explore God in his fullness
Mm,
and worship in that fullness as well. And I think one of the key ways of doing that is through creating things and
yes.
show that you
Yes.
can do that through that. And it's not something to do before, it's not just like something which is set off to the side and isn't that nice. It
Mhm.
can actually be a key part of worship and serving God as well. So yeah, I think it is very important.
Mm.
Wish churches would do it more.
Have you,
Even my own.
yeah. Have you got some creative activities that take place on a regular basis in your church service, for example?
Um, well, some of the things that we do is we've got a family church which meets in one of my churches, which is very creative, very hands-on and physical. So we run that in the middle of the week. We also have, I'm ramping them up to be monthly
Okay.
meetings where we do things in a bit more of a creative style as well. So that may be walking up a mountain and exploring
Right.
mountains of the Bible. Um,
Okay.
we did one on water where we went around different bodies of water and looked at different stories, and it's kind of did a reflection and did an activity each one of those, including doing a bit of paddling. We've done stuff on forests and trees, walking through
Mm.
one of my graveyards, which is a bit of a woodland as well. So we've got stuff that goes on throughout the year. It's something I'd love to do more. I've been here 4 years now, which seems like quite a long time to get something off the ground. But in that time, we had about a year of COVID,
Ah, yeah.
all of that, and we also joined together as a ministry area. So me arriving was also putting the 5 churches who have never worked together
Oh,
to a legal entity to work
right.
together. Um, so that took a lot of
I
creativity
bet.
another way.
Yes.
So we're now in a space where I think we're gonna be able to see that more. But I think it's important to get the groundwork really solid as well with
Hmm.
these things before just running off into other
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're now in the place where we're gonna really push forward and all of that stuff. We've already got a craft group and an art club in one of my
Oh,
churches, and
okay.
we've got getting more stuff sorted, and things like that, and cooking skill.
Oh, that is really exciting, isn't
Yeah,
it?
so, yeah. So
Wow.
there's a lot that
A
is
lot.
actually going on, but it's yeah. Sometimes it's hard to remember even what's going on because there's actually a lot
So
going
much.
on, which is good, which is great.
It
Yeah.
is, absolutely. And I mean, you're working in such a lovely area as well in South Wales, so no difficulty getting beautiful backings for your videos, as you say, forests, lakes, streams, everywhere.
It's very easy and it's very beautiful, and sometimes it's easy to forget that as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
Yeah, it's nice to be reminded.
So, as a modern priest, how important do you think it is for clergy today to speak up clearly on that other topic of inclusion. And
Mm.
if you find that, radical welcome is really important and helps shape people's views of what church is today.
Yeah, I I think the church is one of the last places that can be really honest with people.
Mhm.
Is that in a lot of spheres of life, you don't necessarily have a moral voice talking, and I really believe that the church is a place where we should be able to come together. We should be able to come together and disagree well, and we should be able to come together to really wrestle with subjects which are concerning people.
Mhm.
And it should also be a place where people are yeah, like you said, radically welcomed,
Yeah.
and can be. And I remember that there's a Bonhoeffer quote that I'm going to quote badly, but it's the one where it says, "Those who love the idea of community will kill it, and those who love people will find community."
Right.
And and I think there's a thing about as a minister, and I think ministers should be looking at more, it is how we can love people more and better. And sometimes that extends to being very vocal about what we welcome in our churches, and also what we don't welcome.
Yeah.
And uh, and that goes to, we do love people. We love the stranger. We love our neighbors. We love people who are different to us. But also, if we believe that we're created in God's image,
Mhm.
and everybody is, then that is means that they are worthy of love. And we can't be hostile towards people, and also we can't let people no, I say it can't let, but there needs to be, there needs to be something we say is actually we have expectations, especially as church ministers, about how we're allowed to say, like, actually, I don't think that behaviour is okay.
Yeah.
Can't
Yeah.
talk, can't talk about people like that. That's not the
No.
Christian thing to do, which sometimes can be a scary place to be, especially when there's a lot of uncertainty, and there's a certain amount of trying to keep people happy.
Yes.
Not just happy, but making sure that everybody feels loved, no matter who they are, even if they are sometimes wrong. Um, and I think the Bible is. I will never say. I'll never be someone who says the Bible's clear, because I think there's a lot that is up to our interpretation and our negotiation
Mm.
of Scripture. But I will say that God being love and loving others is a key tenet to it. So if what we say, if what society says is against that, then we need to speak up for
Speak
those,
out.
and make sure that we are and doing it in a productive way, and doing it to the right people too, and having those conversations. I always get told off by one of my wardens because she thinks that I'm sort of like cozying up to some of like MPs and members of Senate and stuff like that. So I'm not, because half the time I'm having a conversation with them, it's very nice, but
Mhm.
I'm kind of complaining about stuff.
Yes. Yes. I can imagine.
It's a way to
Yeah.
do things.
Yeah.
Like you don't need to be aggressive, but when you do speak to people, it's like, well, why have there people starving in this community? Like, it's kind of your
Yes.
job to
Yes.
help with this. What are you doing? While making them a cup of tea and lulling them into I wouldn't say a false sense of security, but it is a sense of actually, I want to work with people to do stuff. I don't want to beat people up. I don't want to say that it's useless. There's no point, because it's
No.
not.
No.
We do work with people, and there's some very good people out there who are willing to work with us as well. We just need to be willing to be the
Mhm.
voices to.
Mhm. Yeah. Speak. Always make sure that our, I suppose, moral compass is in the right place, and
Yeah.
we're doing that with love, isn't it?
Mm.
So you're someone who really seems to thrive at the edges of tradition and innovation. If you could plant one seed of change in the church that would grow over the next 10 years, what would it be?
Hmm. I gonna go on a limb here and say that I would hope a seed of change would be that actually it's not necessarily anything to do with being on the edge, but it's about the people in our churches. Is
Hmm.
that they would see themselves as fully as children of God who have a job to do and see that their story, their impact, their ability to introduce people into the saving grace and love of Jesus is immense. And that's every single person in the church, and that they would know a sense of that too, and would be able to dream of things that would, introduce people to Jesus, which may be radically different than
Yeah.
we've ever known. Because I'm fairly institutionalized now. I do think I'm a bit more on the edge of things sometimes, but
Hmm.
I think it's some of these dreams, some of these visions about what church can be and what church should be, and what faith can be, and what discipleship be, like learning to follow Jesus well and introduce people to Jesus, really needs to come from the people that we
Yeah.
have, and they need to be encouraged and raised up and really known that they are so valuable, they're so loved,
Hmm.
and they're loved enough that God gives them a job to do too. And it's not just
Yes.
with a collar on.
Yes. Yes. Everybody has a story to tell, which
Yeah,
will touch something in other people, don't they?
yeah,
Like you
definitely.
say, it's not just us at all, because sometimes that colour just completely puts people off as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've had to start working. I've got a jacket which has my name on it.
Okay.
Fed up of people, if especially when it's wet here all the time. I live on top of a mountain. Like
Okay.
literally, it's so wet. And sometimes walk around in a jacket, someone like swear or something and not realize I'm there, and they'll be like, "Oh, sorry, father. Oh, whoa." And it's like, yeah, I, I swore about 5 times coming over here in the
Yeah.
car because of drivers. Like, it's nothing new. So I was having to warn people that I'm there. Like sometimes I feel like I should wear a bell around my neck just to make sure that I'm coming. But yeah, yeah, there's definitely something about not just being the person in the collar who
In the
does it.
colour.
Yeah. Mm.
So you've obviously spent a lot of time in church, but I know you've got lots of hobbies and a very rich family life. What's your idea of a perfect day off from church?
Good question. Because I like to pack things in a day, which is very annoying to my wife. It'd probably be a nice walk somewhere, either see some waterfalls up a mountain, see a castle, something like that, and then back to my garden where the kids can play in the
Okay.
garden. I can pot around my garage and we'll have a barbecue in the evening
Oh,
with some friends. So it's a bit of a busy morning and then a bit more of a relaxed afternoon, I think. But that sounds absolutely lovely to me.
perfect. Oh, that sounds wonderful. It really does.
Yeah.
So, Matt, what is next for you?
Oh, what's next? As kind of mentioned earlier, I'm going to be doing some more intensive sort of like groups, looking at a monthly uh, kind of a couple of hours of exploring spirituality in different locations. So from forest, mountains, woodlands, to darkness, to light, and all of those things with people. I'm also kind of something that she's kind of been brewing, and I want to do is a record listening sort of session. One of my churches is about to get a new sound system.
Okay.
And I want to do a thing where we just invite people to come along and listen to an entire album from track one to the end,
Mhm.
and have a bit of a chat about it afterwards. So we've got a few things
Right.
brewing. It's an exciting time for us here,
Yeah.
I really think. Um, yeah, just see where God leads, really.
Brilliant.
Knows.
Well, like you say, you've spent such a long time preparing that groundwork,
Yeah,
and all your experience in all these other crafts and creative areas. It just opens up all these wonderful opportunities.
yeah, yeah.
So, honestly, it's been really lovely to talk to you. I can really feel the enthusiasm coming across. So I'm sure the
Good,
listeners will
good.
feel that as well.
Hopefully, yeah.
But I really wish you all the best in your ministry. And people listening, they will find you at Rev Matt Davis on TikTok,
Yeah.
Instagram, and Facebook.
Hmm.
So we look forward to seeing new developments in the future.
Thank you very much for having me.
You're very welcome. Thanks. Bye bye.